Hello, everyone. I am going to give you a little update about the coronavirus and what our plan is going forward as a state, as a country, and for the world. What is being done, what has happened, and just kind of what needs to happen for us to be able to get back to school again. So I'm going to show you a couple things, and then we'll be able to talk a little bit through those things. And then hopefully that will just give you a better picture of what's happening right now. All right, so first off, we're going to talk a little bit about our state. So for South Dakota, we had kind of an unexpected thing happen, and that's that we became a hot spot for the coronavirus. What that means is that there are a lot of people that are getting sick with this. And one of those places is a plant called Smithfield. They work with pork, which means that they do a lot with pigs. And so pig farmers usually send their pigs to Smithfield, and then they process the pigs. And with what has happened at their plant, a lot of people have gotten sick. Over 200 people have gotten sick there. And so then our farmers have not been able to send their pigs over to Smithfield, which is not great for the state, and it's also not great for our country either, because a lot of our pork that we end up having comes from that plant. So our governor, Kristi Noem, wants to have farmers just let her know, let the state know whatever help that they need. And she's also hoping that we can open the plant as soon as possible. And that's not because it's not important, all of the what's going on, but it's just that it's also important to keep our economy going, keep people working and stuff like that. Good for people to keep working, but it's also good for them to stay safe. So she wants to make sure that we can do that as safely as possible. Some other things that have happened. There's one on here, and we're probably not going to watch the video, but we'll just take a look at it and talk about it a little bit. So there were some people that were talking about they were going to have prom this weekend, and prom is where the young men and the young ladies, they all dress up in fancy clothes, and then they go and they dance together, and then they play some games after that. And so it's usually a pretty fun time. It's a nice way to end the year, especially for the seniors. And so since they can't do that, they were going to be featured, and just highlighting how they're reacting, and they're going to be on the news as well. Just talking about how they feel about that, and what they're doing instead. Other things in our state, we are still allowed to, do the things that we need to do, but there's a little bit more regulation. So for example, the people that work at Lifescape have little cards in the wallets, and that is just so that people know that we work in an essential business that has to stay open. And so there's other places around that are doing that too, where they're handing out little cards. That way, if anybody's wondering why you're out in the community, that's why you're out there. So yeah, just things like that in South Dakota, trying to be careful, trying to make sure that we're not going out too much. But if you can get outside and still be away from other people, that's a really nice thing to do to just continue to be healthy. Another thing, so some things that have been happening in the US, if we look at some images, so here is what the state is kind of looking, or not the state, but the country is kind of looking. So there were some maps from earlier, and they're not really showing what has more recently been happening. I'm going to see if I can get an updated one. Okay, so this one I think is pretty updated. So it says that South Dakota has, this is, I think maybe, this might be a projection too. So I'm not sure if this is the actual count, but it says that we're kind of up there with our amounts. If you look up to the north, there's not that many cases, and in Wyoming, not too many either. But we're kind of getting up there. And the fact that we did have such a high spike in our growth is not very good, because then that means that that is probably going to be just a little bit worse for us than maybe what was expected, but hopefully we'll be able to get through that with some social distancing practices. This is a map of the world too, and we'll talk about more about that in a minute here. But yeah, our country is really hit hard with this. Of course, we're also reporting it quite a bit. And so there might be some countries where it doesn't show up all the way, but they don't really know, and it's not being reported that much yet. But yeah, in our country, it's really kind of been hit hard by this virus. All right, and then we're going to look a little bit at what it looks like over the course of the whole world. So this is the amount for the world, and it is as of yesterday. So there were 2,623,413 people that were confirmed to have the coronavirus. And if you look at this graph, there was a period where there was kind of a lot of growth for a little bit. And that's kind of when we started realizing, like, okay, this is a bad deal. We really got to do something about this. And so it just kind of really spiked from there. But then since then, there has been some steady growth, but it's kind of been not increasing the way that that it might have. And I'll show you what it could have looked like, and hopefully what it will end up looking like. So this is what it could have looked like, where it just increased and it kept on increasing up to where everybody that was getting sick was getting a lot more other people sick. And so that would have been a really bad thing, but hopefully it's going to look a little bit more like this. And you don't need to pay attention to the labels on there. This is talking about like the amount of animals that could live in an environment or something like that. But this is, if we kind of relate this to what coronavirus cases should look like, there's growth, there's kind of an exponential growth here, but then it levels off. And we've seen it kind of do that. Like, it's kind of slowing. It's not increasing at the rate that it could. And so hopefully it'll start to level off like this, and then that curve will flatten. And so then hopefully we're just not getting a lot of other people sick. All right, and then last but not least, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what needs to happen in order for us to all be able to get back to school. So we are kind of keeping ourselves away from each other, and that's just to keep safe. If some of our people at Lifescape got sick, they could get very sick, and so it is really important for you to just be careful and maintain those social distancing practices. And it's not very fun to be away from school this long, but it is important, and I appreciate how much everyone is working hard to just keep going with this and keep going with just the schoolwork and communication and all of that. And you've all been really wonderful with that, and it's been awesome to see your faces every day too. In order for us to be able to get back to school, I would think that we'd have to make sure that our curve has leveled off a little bit, where there's not a lot of new people getting this illness every day. And we'd also have to make sure that it wasn't something that any of you have, and it's not something that anyone at Lifescape has. So I think when some of those things all kind of come together, then we'll be able to get back to school. And the last that I've heard is that June is where they think it's going to start leveling off. So we'll probably be away from each other for a while yet. but just continue to plug away, continue to work hard, enjoy some of this nice weather, and communicate, and we'll be able to get back together again, and hopefully everyone will be safe and healthy when we do that. All right, have a wonderful day, and I'll keep seeing you over the Zoom meetings. Thank you.